All right, thank you so much for staying with Daybreak. You're just in time for that discussion. This is a social square. We speak about many issues, but we give different voices on matters that are in the public domain. So today we're talking about the BBI. Let me introduce my guests really quick before we set the stage of what this conversation is all about. Gloria Oruoba, a youth policy analyst, is here with us. Thank you so much for making time.
Good morning.
Good morning. Danstan Omari, a lawyer, is also here with us. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you very much.
And John Yaya Nene, politician. Thank you so much for coming in.
Good morning.
So they'll be giving us the context of what they think in terms of the BBI, but let me set the stage here. Yesterday, senators lined up proposals in an attempt to amend the BBI report. This despite a push by pro-BBI legislators to pass the bill as is. Murang'a Senator Irungu Kang'ata and Kitui Senator Enoch Wambua want various parts of the bill expunged, describing them as offensive. Sam Ogina reports on a fresh attempt to reopen the document on the floor of the House.
In his quest to amend the 2020 referendum bill, the Murang'a senator wants the number of new additional constituencies increased from 70 to 79. The 9 additional constituencies to be allocated to Murang'a, Nyeri, Meru, Embu, Kirinyaga, Laikipia and Tharaka Nithi counties. Likewise, the senator wants articles on representation in the National Assembly and the Senate, increasing the number of senators from 67 to 94 and MPs from 349 to 360 scrapped. The senator claiming this amounted to overburdening the taxpayer.
The Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020.
On his part, the Kitui senator has listed several amendments to the bill. This despite a push to rubber stamp the document as is. Enoch Wambua listing 5 changes to the bill, including the scrapping of the second schedule that proposes the allocation of the 70 additional new constituencies and expunging the controversial judiciary ombudsman.
I'm wondering if we are to endorse which one will go to the referendum, Mr. Speaker, sir. And remember, majority of county assembly, more than 30, they passed the erroneous bill.
The people of Kenya were deceived, Mr. Speaker, that this was a process intended in achieving a different objective, but those who had ulterior motives, Mr. Speaker, wanted to amend the Constitution.
And therefore, one can correctly argue this bill does not meet the constitutional requirement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Despite speaking in one voice previously, the co-chairs of the Parliamentary Justice and Legal Affairs Committee appear at variance. Taking cognizance of the typographical and other errors in the document, the Senate Legal Affairs Chairman differed with his National Assembly counterpart, Omogeni advocating for the Senate to make changes to the bill.
His Excellency the President and the Right Honorable Prime Minister, the honor of the handshake, they are not going to kill any of us if we correct this mistake on this bill.
A cabinet secretary being referred to as cabinet minister. These are not material. These are not material. They don't change the tenor of what Wajiko intended to say. They don't go to the root.
How will we look to the Kenyan people, Mr. Speaker, if we consider a bill that has got these typing errors?
In the National Assembly, proponents of the bill took cognizance of the mistakes in the 2020 referendum bill, stating that no document can be perfect and that this should not derail the process.
There is no man-made thing that is ever 100% perfect. It's only God's creation which can be said to be perfect, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this Constitution, even as we amend it today, there will always be room to amend it again and again and again.
No constitution the world over is cast on stone. And a time such as that has emerged, and we are, as Kenyans, coming up to make changes in areas where we feel the shoe pinches.
Debate on the document continues next week when the National Assembly resumes. The Senate is expected to convene a special sitting next week to conclude debate on the bill. Sam Ogina, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And that is the discussion we're having this morning. We'd like to hear your views as well at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, #Daybreak, to amend or not to amend. That is the main concern. Gloria, I'll start with you on this. What is your general view on the BBI? Let's not even, before we even get into whether it should be amended or not.
You know, when this initiative started, actually, a lot of Kenyans were on board. I would say like 90%, because how it was sold to the public was that we are going in with this 9-point agenda on shared prosperity, on making sure we don't have divisive politics, ensuring we have stability in the country, you know, all those nice things. They even at one point attempted to address the issues with the youth, you know, unemployment. So when the initiative was initially actually brought to the public, it was, I think at that point we had the goodwill, because really these are things that Kenyans want. If we're looking at how to expand on job creation for the youth, definitely that's something we want to talk about. Peaceful elections. So my take is that we moved from the Uniting Kenyans, that is why it's called Building Bridges Initiative, and we suddenly almost just, you know, put our focus on now just expanding the executive and the 70 constituencies. So you kind of wonder, you know, as much as we are going to the referendum and we are trying to say that these other issues are actually covered in there, they're not really getting the spotlight. So I would say that there's a risk that a lot of Kenyans might actually vote no, because the understanding at this point is that we are actually just focusing on either the 70 constituencies or, you know, the expansion of the executive.
So we'll throw the baby with the bathwater.
Yes, and all the other stuff that was good, you know, when we were looking at the gender inclusivity, the fact that even we would now start addressing issues on appointment from, you know, that from the electorate, from the legislature, that we'll get the MPs, you know, to be part of the cabinet so that we can have this sort of, you know, collaboration and things like that. All of that stuff is now, you know,
out the window.
Out the window. And we are now almost just debating about the 70 constituencies that have been brought in. So I think my general feel is, it's almost if we could press, you know, the reset button and remind ourselves, why did we start the Building Bridges Initiative? Nene,
what are your thoughts?
I have a divergent view from my sister. Personally, the way, because I'm viewing as a politician, I do not see the need to change the constitution. I have never been for the BBI, and BBI basically, from my view, is a power sharing deal. The main thing that is put under the blanket is a power sharing deal between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. The rest of the things in BBI is just enticing the public to love the document. But the only thing implementable in the BBI is that power sharing deal that is hidden behind this lucrative enticement to the public. I view BBI in 4 components. Component number 1 is the power sharing deal. Component number 2 is the enticement to the youth, to the women. Component number 3 is the enticement to the voting bloc for the BBI, that is the parliament and the MCAs. They are enticed to vote for the document. But the main hidden agenda in BBI is a power sharing deal. We have a very progressive constitution. All those components that are explained in BBI are clearly stipulated in the constitution. And these guys who are cheating us that they are going to implement the BBI are the same people we have been entrusted with the constitution, and they have not fully implemented the constitution. So me, I sense a sinister thing in the BBI. And right now, the biggest backlog for the Kenyan people, especially for us young people, is the economic strain and the effects of COVID-19. I don't see the rush to amend the constitution. Actually, the progressive leaders should address how we come out of the current economic crisis.
Omari, do you agree?
Well, seems that the panel has a similar approach towards the BBI. But Trevor, the thinking of forming a BBI was conceptualized out of the animosities that we had in the 2 elections of 2017 and 2018. It got lost. The agenda that was to unite and bring everybody on board really disappeared, as my good sister has put it. Today we are dealing with a totally different thing. Just like COVID that is mutating from the variants that we are seeing now, we have a a new variant from India, the BBI has been mutating like that. You really don't know what it is. It is moving, the targets are moving every other day. The reason being that the moment the handshake partners created another angle of the Tanga wing, then propaganda and war started. What we are seeing is that the people who are opposed against the constitutional amendments have won the day because the public now has not been told exactly the content. Civic education, Trevor, is a constitutional requirement that Kenyans were supposed to know what they were dealing with. It is not by accident. It's not by accident that we are hearing that over 30-something county assemblies passed an erroneous document. What is the role of the national intelligence in this? Who had the capacity to make that error? When it comes to us to challenge it in court, definitely there can never be something that is erroneous, unconstitutional, and will be passed. In 2010, I know Kenyans are asking, what happened? We made a constitution in 2020 without regard to the then constitution that was there. The old constitution that died did not have specific articles dealing with amendments of constitution, making of constitution. This one of 2010, Trevor, provides for the roadmap for anybody who wants to do any amendment or review of the constitution to follow. So I think that where we are heading to, I think the whole process will collapse either in parliament or will collapse in courts.
But what is the impact of this document coming to the people with all those errors? Is it challengeable in court? If, say, it's going to be a yes or no to the public, if they vote yes, can someone challenge it in court and say it was passed but it has unconstitutional parts of it?
Already the preliminaries are about how it was formulated and how it has been done is pending a decision of the court. The court's, a free judge bench has said, do not go to the referendum. That is the first hurdle. Will it be cleared after it has gone through parliament to go to the referendum? Two, that is the High Court. There is the Court of Appeal. Whichever party that feels aggrieved will rush to the Court of Appeal. Will it again dash to the Supreme Court? So definitely the hurdles that have been put in place, legal hurdles, I mean, two, look at COVID as a constant. Are we likely to have a referendum with the COVID surge in India? And I've seen today, Citizen has reported that there is the Indian variant has been spotted in Uganda. Is it likely to be here? So, have we factored that? Three, can we conduct a referendum with the current economic situation that is there? Can Kenyans come out to vote for positions against economic development? People have no food. People are dying of COVID. People can't afford a mask. So the dynamics, the timing is totally against the referendum. The legal parameters are totally against the referendum. And the mood in the country, you have seen already Okongo Mogeni, my senator, saying Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta cannot kill us. Really, we can only do amendments because that is our back. We are seeing schism in parliament, and definitely we are going to have a lot of challenges moving forward.
Okay. Gloria, should this even be coming to the public at this point? Should we even be discussing a referendum like Nene mentioned?
You know, I think the worry that has been is with this whole initiative is the legal framework and the processes. Remember in the beginning, we were asking, so this is a popular initiative. And yet we were asking or questioning that how come it is actually being funded by, you know, by taxpayers' money. So there was that issue. And when they had the 14-member committee of advisors, you know, the BBI strategic team, again, they were asking, how are these people, you know? So there's always been a question of what is the legal framework that this whole initiative is actually being processed through.
Yeah.
And when you ask if we're going to have a referendum, you know, just 3 days ago I was wondering, the allegations of the different, allegedly six different drafts that were, you know, distributed to the County Assembly and the National Assembly and the Senate. And it was alleged that only 11 county assemblies actually passed the original legitimate BBI.
Yeah.
So therefore, there was the question of if only 11 actually debated and passed, you know, the original one, and apparently or allegedly the other ones were the fake BBI. So then did the process actually meet the threshold of the 24 county assembly, you know, threshold, which is stipulated in the constitution that for you to be able to go to the next step, which is the National Assembly,
yeah,
you must have actually been passed in the 24 county assemblies. And immediately that was, we were told, you know, it was just typographical errors. You know, these things are going to be cleaned up. You know, they tried to blame it on IEBC, but the chair, Chebukati, actually came out and said, no, I was not responsible in making copies. So there's always been this question of what process are we following? What is the transparency of that process? And now that we've, you know, decided to go ahead and even debate it in the National Assembly, if you ask me,
yeah,
the moment there was the allegations of the 6 different drafts, the moment the committee in the National Assembly actually verified that the one in the Senate and the one in the National Assembly are actually 2 different, or rather they had it in their report, I think that's the point where we would have stopped and said, okay, what is the next move, you know? Do we find out which house, you know, got the wrong one and then, you know, subject them to the original one and give them some time to read? But I feel as though there is this pressure because we have already invested about 3 years in this process. So, you know, there's something that is called the lost cost fallacy, where you buy something, it's expensive, you already know it's not actually going to, you know, help you, but then you're like, but I've spent so much money. So you keep buying extra, you know, accessories to try and make it work efficiently. I think that is what is happening. So now that we've moved to the next step and we are debating it in the National Assembly, Trevor, I think what we should try and sensitize the public is, first of all, the National Assembly, whether they say they reject it or they approve it, it doesn't matter. Because according to the Constitution, really they are just a conveyor belt. It's really because the County Assembly cannot directly forward the draft bill to the President. And that's the reason we are in the National Assembly and the Senate. But I think, if you ask me, I strongly believe that this initiative is going to be pushed forward. I strongly believe that after the discussions in the National Assembly and in the Senate, they are going to forward the draft bill as it is to the President. I think, and the legal experts can inform us, I think what they are going to do is say for the typographical errors, we are going to send it to the Attorney General, they clean it up, they make it constitutional, and then it will be passed as a clean bill. And I think IEBC then is going to subject us to a referendum. Now, the question then becomes, if we have even shut down the National Assembly, the Senate, our schools, institutions, public, you know, spaces, because we are saying that Corona is, you know, we are trying to deal with the numbers, how then do you fast track that referendum process? Because again, we have a time limitation, you know, for this referendum to happen, if they want it to happen before the next general election. How do you fast track that process and at the same time keep the curfew, you know? So now you're in a situation where you're trying to say, we have to deal with the pandemic, we have to put in the social distancing measures, we have to put in the shutdown of certain institutions, but also we have to vote for this referendum before the next general election. So, you know, there's a conflict there. And I'm really waiting to see how that plays out, because if we are subjected to a referendum, then it would not be fair to say that all these other measures that we are putting, which are affecting us really, really in a very, our economy is completely, we are almost crashing, then it would be fair to say, okay, if we are going to risk the lives of Kenyans by subjecting us to a referendum, we might as well open up the economy, drop the curfew, so that we can push the economic recovery at the same time. So for me, it's a question of deciding, were you really serious about fighting the pandemic? If you were, we should not be talking about the referendum before 50 million Kenyans have actually been vaccinated.
At least. Okay.
Yes.
And Nene, there's a pushback here from Engineer Lazaro Kanyambok. He says leaders shouldn't mislead Kenyans that BBI is just about power sharing deal between Honorable Odinga and the president. Yet we are all aware President Kenyatta's tenure is ending.
Mbija, first of all, you know that Kenyan politicians don't care about public opinion. Actually, even the BBI public participation is really questionable, whether it was done in the right way, and I think the legal expert can guide us on that. Right now, to be very honest and sincere, we are not sure what these big men are planning. We are not even sure whether the lockdown is genuine or there is something undercover. BBI referendum requires resources, and we know that the country was broke. Now that they have borrowed loan from IMF and they have the money, these politicians are planning. If it is true what I'm saying, that Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila are in a power sharing deal in the name of BBI, these guys will go ahead with the referendum. Even the collection of the signatures is still questionable. The speed in which it was done, the enticement for the MCAs to get cars so that they vote for the BBI. You never know. You know, even our parliamentarians, we don't trust them. Maybe the discrepancy, they are negotiating for money. They need some money to be given to them. So these guys, if you know, there is also rumors, you know, I'm talking from a political angle. There's also rumors that the handshake, the marriage, is not going smooth. And you've seen in the public domain that people are saying Raila Ruto Association or something like that. But if Raila and Uhuru are still in good terms, and the only way to share power is BBI, we are going to the referendum whether you like it or not. The BBI will be taken to the referendum. The politicians will make a lot of noise after the lockdown, and before you realize, it shall be passed. So be rest assured. I want to respond to what my friend is saying there. You know, when Uhuru Kenyatta became the president of Kenya, he accumulated a lot of wealth. These guys are controlling all the businesses in this country. So he doesn't want to let go of power like that. So he wants to still retain power. You know, you're trading on very dangerous ground on national TV.
You see, you could be sued for this, and we have a legal expert here. That's a very dangerous ground you're going through.
Yes, you see, the reason why Kenyans continue to, you know, to remain where we are is because we are sugarcoating the truth. People don't want to tell the truth the way it is. Why would Uhuru Kenyatta still be interested in power? Why can't he just go home and rest like Mwai Kibaki?
Though he has said several times.
Yes, but what we are seeing is not what he's saying. So these guys, if they are planning a power sharing deal, the BBI referendum will go on. There is money available now to do it, and it is going to pass. It is the only formula that is allowing this guy to still be behind the scenes and maintain their businesses.
I think it's a bit unfair to place it that way. I strongly believe that for Uhuru Kenyatta, BBI was a sort of legacy. Because remember, when he started the Big Four agenda, you know, there were some challenges with that. They tried to push it. Remember when we were talking about affordable houses, well, they tried to create the jobs and everything. And I think at that moment is when we had our political environment was actually heightened. And that's the moment, I think, when they were launching the houses, the affordable housing project, I think they're down in Gara, when they actually had the handshake. So for me, to say that, you know, it's about holding on to power, you know, getting protection, I don't know. I don't know about that. But I do believe that, you know, like any other president, he would like to have a legacy. And I believe when there was a realization that maybe this Big Four agenda was so much to actually come to fruition during my term, you know, what else are people going to remember me for? So I think there was an opportunity that was seen there in terms of, okay, you know, we've had like political unrest, we've had, you know, this divisive politics. How about, you know, this is a low-lying fruit, so let me try and, you know, cling on to this. Okay. I strongly believe that to Uhuru Kenyatta, for him it was, if I'm not going to deliver to fruition the Big Four agenda, I might as well have this handshake with Raila Odinga and sort of try to, you know, say, you know, at the very least, I sort of left the country at peace. At the very least, we sort of tried to unite, you know, Kenyans. Okay. And I think that's why he's frustrated. Okay. Because I think he went into it thinking it's as simple as shaking hands, you know, coming up with this 9-point agenda, and then, you know, we are going to go around. When you look at, and maybe really we should push Kenyans to read this. When you look at the 9-point agenda, there are some things in there that actually were sort of, you know, exciting in terms of even just rewriting our history, you know, and changing that from primary school so that our children could understand really why we have these tribes, the Kikuyus and how we were actually participating participating in the independence of this country. There are some good things in there that could have, in the long term, changed the culture of how Kenyans approach elections, you know. Okay. And the problem is when there are two partners who go into a handshake and everyone is hiding a card, you know. One of them is hiding their card and saying, you know, maybe once I do this peaceful thing, you never know, there could be a window, I could come back as Prime Minister. Another one is thinking, okay, this could be my campaign platform, so I might as well push this. So, you know, when they came together, everybody had their own idea of the end product. Yeah. And the frustration is that now we are actually seeing the real intention of the initiative. Of the BBI. Yes.
Okay. Barry, what do you think of that, please?
When we look at the two panelists' point of issue is that really what was the reason for creating the BBI? That's what that question is. Yeah. When we look at the motive, it was very selfish. It was very self-centered. And it was individualistic. President Uhuru Kenyatta had his election had been nullified. A second one had been ordered. The question of his legitimacy was all over. The president was a limping president in terms of popular legitimacy. He had to get a way to legitimize his power. William Ruto, the deputy, could not legitimize President Uhuru Kenyatta's legitimacy. So he had to look for a way to bring Raila Odinga as the only way to legitimize his power sharing. On the other hand, Raila Odinga had a problem. He contested in 2013 as a serious prime minister. He spent billions. He lost. He contested in 2017, the first time. He spent billions. He lost. Financially, he had become weak. He saw a chance of a negotiated settlement. Rumor has it that he never presented himself for the rerun because already the point of handshake had already been discussed. And there was some consideration that was given for him not to run. Immediately, he also saw a chance of getting state funds. And you've seen all of a sudden Raila Odinga has the trappings of a state officer, and yet he does not occupy any government office in this country. Two, you look at the number of his lieutenants who are very loyal. From 2013, they were getting jilted. Now they are back in government. This is an agenda. He had to look for a way to raise resources for 2022. He has acquired those resources. William Ruto has lost those resources. Third, his serious contender, according to the way you look at it, it was William Ruto. How could he be able to challenge William Ruto in 2022 if he still was outside without resources and without the benefit of the deep state? He has managed to edge William Ruto out. But that was time-bound. Now the reality is here. President Uhuru Kenyatta had no intention at all to give the baton to Raila Odinga. And he has said it very clearly, that has never been discussed. and that shall never appear. Raila Odinga is saying, yes, we never discussed that way, but then I'll take the Samsonian approach of the Bible. I'll bring it crumbling down. Where will President Uhuru Kenyatta rush to? As a general who was depending on the military that is hired, the owners of the military, the soldiers are leaving. Raila Odinga is leaving. In Parliament, you've seen the likes of Senior Counsel Otienda Molo, Senior Counsel Orengo, Senior Counsel Mugeni. The Raila diehards are saying this thing must be opened. We must put our position clear. History will judge us right. So the marriage, as Oroba says it, is heading to the dogs. How will President Uhuru Kenyatta navigate the remaining 1 year? Once the BBI dies, because it was intended to die, that must be very clear. The state cannot and shall not have 2 versions or 6 versions. My friend Trevor, the state is such a monster, is such a bureaucracy. It cannot that it is a typographical error. It was by design. The WACO draft of 205 or 206, the state inserted a clause that they can tap into people's phones at the last minute. The government printer is such a serious department in government that you cannot tell any Kenyan that the BBI was being printed at River Road, that there were very many printers all over. So in my own view, President Uhuru Kenyatta has gotten the legitimacy, he has gotten his way up to now, and nobody is going to go to the streets anyway to fight him. It will be Raila Odinga and William Ruto and Trevor if you want to be the president. So the president has finished his term
pass on that one.
in a very peaceful manner. The battle line is between now and definitely, they knew very well, once the courts stop it, the president will tell you, you see, this is a country where I swore to defend the Constitution. The courts have said, this cannot go to a referendum. What do you want me to do? If they have said no, we have a 2022 election, let's proceed. That is the legal, political implication of the drama we are seeing. Where does it leave Wanjiku? Where does it leave my people and myself? Kenyans' money has been utilized in a white elephant project. We are suffering because we have pumped so much money, so much time, but we have achieved one thing. We have not had street battles. That's the only advantage, that we never had street battles. The economy peaked, and whatever the KRA picked from the quiet economy that was doing business went to a sunk pit latrine where funds have been dumped, time has been spent, we don't know the end result, but as a lawyer, I'll definitely tell you that it cannot, even a first-year law student will just dismiss that BBI, because the legal framework. Trevor, why haven't we ever even now made a referendum law in this country? Why? The bills are lying in Parliament. Is it accidental? We had the first referendum in 2005, somewhere around that time. It died. We had another referendum in 2010. There was no referendum law. This one has been talked. Nobody is busy looking at it. Look at the time we are reconstituting the IEBC. Is it accidental or is it by design? It is, in this country, nothing happens accidentally. At entry, before entry, exit strategy is already put. We will enter like this, we'll exit like this. So any Kenyan who thinks that anything is happening, everything is controlled, the president has thousands and thousands of strategic advisors. He cannot be wrong. So don't think that the president has been cornered. He knows, he knew how he entered into the plan, and he knew how he'll exit, comfortably.
Okay. I have to take a quick break here. I see a lot of your feedback coming through. We'll read some of them here. Let's bring up the feedback there. We see here Daniel Karuga says there's nothing good for ordinary Kenyans in the BBI. It will punish Kenyans. Okay. Let's see what else you're saying. Jacob Abere says, good conversation. My take, BBI has good intentions and background solution to Kenya's development melodies. Problem now is that political activism have diluted it through social platforms without understanding the electoral evils we want to change. All right. Ditches La Kenya, she says, why pass the BBI with errors? Let's just get it right. Where is the harm of the document if the document is amended? Would you spend 10,000 to purchase something you already know is faulty? The National Assembly should put Kenya and Kenyans first. Do we really need this now? Okay. Fundamental questions there being asked by Kenyans. Njenga Wakumu says, we can't afford to discard the BBI at this time, that the national mood is about amending the constitution. Just because some prophets of doom infiltrated the goodwill of the majority of Kenyans, Kenyans will and must be allowed to sustain BBI as the majority good for us. All right, let's squeeze in one more here before we get into the other conversation. It's coming through in just a bit on social. We have quite a number here. I see another one here coming. Oguta Onyango says, those who claim BBI is a power deal are the same ones who will theorize how Uhuru is using it to tame Raila. How Uhuru has duped so and so, and their stories seem to be different every day. Kenyans do elect their leaders. BBI does not prescribe names of individuals into positions.